Company, order, arm. Parade, rest.
Come on in if you'd like to get a little closer. Before we begin, I'd like to welcome you all to Gettysburg and welcome you here to the Pennsylvania Memorial for our Living History Weekend with the units that make up the Mifflin Guard. These men of the Mifflin Guard are a very important part of our Living History program here at Gettysburg. This year, 32 weekends, where we invite into the park some of the finest groups in the nation to come out on the battlefield to present life of a Civil War soldier programs to you folks. The Mifflin Guard weekend this weekend here at the Pennsylvania Monument, and they are like all the groups that are invited to Gettysburg. These gentlemen have traveled long distance. They've spent their own money and they've given up this weekend. And if it wasn't for our volunteers, we could not offer any of these living history programs for you folks to enjoy. So maybe we can just take a moment of our time. Thank the members of the Mifflin Guard for giving up their weekend. They did that for you. What they're going to do for you here, and again at 1 o'clock, so come on back, is demonstrate the weapons and tactics of the infantry soldier. You're going to be introduced to the Springfield or Enfield rifle musket, how the soldiers were trained in loading that weapon, and then how they formed together in the double rank lines and fought the tactics of the American Civil War. During the course of the program, they will be firing their muskets, but Park Service regulations are quite clear. We don't live fire the musket. So for obvious reasons, there won't be many balls flying down range, but each man will be firing about 60 to 70 grains of black powder in a blank cartridge. It's going to be loud. So when you go to fire, if you have a hearing aid, you might want to turn that down a little bit. Also, to protect your hearing, simply cover, plug up your ears. That should do the trick. Who's been involved for over 25 years doing these living histories. Very knowledgeable, going to share some of his knowledge. The Colonel of the Mifflin Guard, Mr. Phil Byrd. Phil?
Good morning and welcome, and thank you for showing an interest in this subject and these soldiers who preserved our Union in the 1860s. We are the Mifflin Guard. That's a battalion-sized organization that's composed of individual regiments from the states of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. We have members from those states, and some travel even as far as from Vermont. They do that because they want to be with the best unit there is. I understand that. So, we have here a representative company-sized, a smallish company, and this is what the soldier looked like. He had the wool uniform, he had the single shot Enfield or Springfield rifled musket. It's loaded from the top of the barrel. They have light blue pants because they were volunteers. At the beginning of the war, the Federal Army had about 10,000 only. And those soldiers were outfitted with dark blue pants. But the volunteers were given the light blue kersey pants. And that army swelled to over 1 million. So that all happened very rapidly through the first year. The challenge, for instance, for General Meade, he's got an army here at Gettysburg with 95,000 soldiers. He has to deploy them, they have to be efficient, they have to be able to engage the enemy in an orderly way. And you need a system to do that. You need pre-planned ways to move. And for this, during this time period, both the Federal and Confederate armies used the Napoleonic, we call them tactics, but the procedures developed by the French in the early 1800s, how to move, how to deploy, precise details about what the soldier should do given on a command, and that kept the order. Its purpose was to get fighting soldiers at the point they were needed as quickly and orderly as possible. And we'll show you some of those to give you a look at how that was done. This weapon, a single fire muzzle-loaded, mostly rifled muskets. In the Napoleonic era in the early 1800s, the Revolutionary War, the muskets were smooth bore, and you had to get a bullet down there, so you needed a little space between the bullet and the barrel, or you couldn't get to it. And the accuracy was 50 to 75 yards. Perhaps you couldn't be sure you'd hit anything any farther away than that white van there. And so armies were brought together closely so those weapons could be effective. This rifled musket and the mini ball that was developed to use puts a spin on the bullet. It's got an aerodynamic head, and it can maintain its trajectory down to those trees down there. You can, the way I see it, you can kill a man farther than I can see. And because of that, the casualties were very high. They were just very close with very accurate weapons. We have 23 of us here representing what would be a full regiment. This is organized in a single company. We have a company commander who will raise his hand. He commands the company in battle. Behind him, a first sergeant. First sergeant's the mother of the company, takes care of the men, takes care of their needs, makes sure they're ready, that they're watered, that they have their food. All of the personal things are handled by the first sergeant. The company commander's only worried about what I tell him, the colonel, and what we want to do, and what this unit has to do. When originally mustered in, a regiment would have 1,000, 10 companies of 100 each. During their time in service, disease, the primary one, some desertions, and battle casualties would reduce that rate. A typical sized regiment would be 300 to 500, say. We stand below the monument of the 1st Minnesota. They had 262 going into battle at this point on July 2nd. So while we'll do some maneuvers, I ask you to imagine this is the first company, and it's a little small, and there could be 6 or 8 more. They're facing you in a battlefront. They can fire from this. This is how we would engage the enemy, a front rank and a back rank. Not 3, but 2. And so we drill and practice to shoot. We won't shoot you, but if you were a Confederate, we're ready to shoot from this formation. But 6 or 8 or 10 more companies, a regiment would extend all the way down to that monument down there. A regiment was organized by the states, so they carry state names. 26 PA, 1st Minnesota. But those regiments were then given to the Federal Army. They maintain their name. So when you're reading about those regiments, where they came from, once on a battlefield, that group is called a battalion. You fight a battalion, you have battalion commands. And those two words are not exactly the same, but they refer to the same people. It took me 10 years to figure that out. So we give battalion commands, we read Casey's School of the Battalion, all of that coming from the French. Now, this formation, and consider a whole regiment that long, can't march from city to city that way. Can't march from great distances. In 1863, country roads about as wide as 2 horses, as wide as a wagon. So the device used, attention battalion, shoulder, arm. The way to handle that is, battalion, right, base. On that command, they form a column 4 men wide, just about the size of 2 horses. And we can go all through the country that way, marching by the flank, that's called. Battalion, front. You saw this company did this. If all 10 of them did it, and I yelled loud enough that they could hear that, 1,000 men are set to go down that 2-horse wide country road. Now, the lieutenant colonel will take charge of the men, run them through a few maneuvers.
Company. Right. Face.
You see the colors at the end of this company. Typically, the colors are going to be at the center of the battalion. So if I have 4 companies,
Right.
would be at the end of the second company in the middle of the battalion. Uniforms are wool, they're heavy. There's no summer uniform. They wore what we have on now. Getting used to it in the heat.
Company.
Northern boys going down in the south makes them pretty severe.
Aim. Fire.
That was a percussion cap
Load.
going off. Now those weapons have a spent percussion cap down at the nipple, and no air and oxygen can get into the barrel because now they're going to pour gunpowder down the barrel. The last thing they'll do is put a new fresh percussion cap on the nipple. The cartridge with the black powder and the bullet are kept in the cartridge pouch the soldier has. He tips it over and pours the powder, gets it started, and then the bullet's at the top end of that, and he'll press that down with the ramrod. When they go to fire,
Company. Firing by company. Company. Ready.
watch the back rank feet.
Aim. Fire. Load.
The back rank man has to step over so he doesn't shoot the front rank man in the head. So they'll always step over to the right, and there's a window between the 2 men in front of them. They have to keep the right distance, front to back and left to right, to make sure they're in that window. Even as reenactors, we're not shooting bullets, but that percussion cap, if it goes off near your ear, hurts and damages your hearing. So the distance from front to back and left to right, the rear rank's responsibility is to keep the percussion cap away to the front rank man's ear, and then obviously that the business end of the barrel is out in front of his face. No different than during the Civil War.
Firing by company. Company. Ready. Pay attention. By the left oblique. Aim. Fire. Shoulder.
From this firing formation, we can fire forward as you saw originally, or we can fire by obliques. We don't have to move the men around, they can just turn. But they have to practice that because now they're changing the way they are among themselves, and you don't want to cap someone's ear or burn them with powder. They can fire by the left oblique or the right oblique.
Forward. March. 5 mile right. 5 mile right.
July 2nd, 1863, the 1st Minnesota was here very much alone. There was a big hole in the federal line. A brigade of 1,500 Confederates was coming through those bushes, and General Hancock saw that, saw the hole in his line, and looked around, and there was one regiment protecting some artillery. He needed to delay that advance or they'd get through his line, which would be disastrous. He told the 1st Minnesota colonel,
Load.
attack that brigade. Everybody, the colonel on down to the last private, knew that meant they were going to be obliterated, and they did not pause. They did not hold up a minute, and they attacked and did delay that brigade until reinforcements could come at the cost of 82% casualties. 262 men went in and 47 came out. There was no other way to do it but to be masked like this. So you don't hurt yourselves, you got to have these distances between between the caps and the barrels to hit, to take a position, to put fire down on an enemy, you have to mash the fire. To take a position, you have to have men in great numbers.
Fire! Load!
See that smoke? That's 20 guys with muskets. If I had 1,000, and then I had a few cannons back there, and the wind was not blowing, we'd all be covered in smoke and won't be able to see and have trouble breathing. So giving commands, keeping order, becomes more difficult once a battle goes. When a battle starts, people get excited. Officers are screaming, NCOs are screaming, the smoke is all over the place. Those soldiers have to be focused and disciplined and brave because they're taking rounds coming at them. I say all that to give you a feel for what it might be like out there, and none of it's good. We do this so you'll think about it. Youngsters, think about it, get interested in it. Learn about it, keep it. Teach yours.
Company. Firing by rank. Company. Ready.
A commander will be reluctant to fire all his weapons at once and then
Fire! Load!
have his unit standing there with nothing loaded. So what you see here, we're firing by rank. He'll fire the back rank and leave the front rank loaded and give a moment of time for the back rank to start reloading. So should some opponent jump out of the bushes that he didn't see or some unforeseen thing happen, he still has a whole rank of men that he can put fire on somebody.
Front rank. Aim! Fire! Load!
In the readings we do and the movies you watch, they say a well-trained soldier can load 3 rounds in a minute. If you see the movie Glory, they make the point. Bullets are coming at you, people are screaming, it's hot, there's chaos. I don't know about loading 3 bullets a minute. You'd have to be very, very focused to stick with that. But
couldn't hear anything either.
the commander's measuring, he knows about how much time it takes for his men to use, and he tries to measure his commands.
Company. Firing by file.
Jeez, muskets.
Ready.
This is another method of sending fire down line, but not unloading your whole battalion.
New York and Pennsylvania, I mean, have different ones, but all the
You heard the bugle. Every command has a bugle call.
2 rounds independent. Load.
You put your mind in that situation where there's smoke and there's noise and there's cannons and there's horses. And I'm a colonel talking to 1,000 men perhaps. You think the guy on the end can hear me? Probably not. But he can hear that bugle, which says the same thing I say in English. He says it in bugle, and that pierces through the noise. Purpose of the colors. Yes, we're a federal unit, but it's a big flag and it's brightly colored. In all this smoke, if I were to give it a command to advance and that private on the end doesn't hear it, if he looks down the line and he sees his colors moving forward, he goes with them. It's another way to communicate. And if they happen to go backwards, it's because I gave the command. He knows to withdraw, and he's not a coward. He's taking an order. We are all moving back. It's not me running away. So the bugle, the flag, and generally the colonel's command is communicating to him. Very rarely, anything less than a colonel and less than a full regiment operates independently. The measure of the discipline of those soldiers, when the battalion fires by battalion or a company by company, listen to the sound. If it sounds like a cannon, they're sharp, they're paying attention. If it sounds like popcorn going off, somebody's asleep. They're not tight. They're not well drilled.
Firing by
You go to a
company.
reenactment, you'll find us. You'll hear that
Ready.
infantry cannon going off because the Mifflin Guard is there.
Aim.
That's bragging, I know, but
Fire. Prime.
priming and firing without powder is a safety device by reenactors because we will not go back to camp with any loaded weapons. How does the commander know that? He shoots only a percussion cap. If any soldier happens to not have
Firing
fired
by
before
company.
and has powder in the weapon, it'll go off.
Ready.
And he'll prime again until
Aim. Fire. Gold
you
arm.
and I and he knows there's no black powder in any of those weapons,
Rear
and we're
rank.
keeping you safe.
About face.
Also important, we're keeping ourselves safe.
Invert.
So as you come into the camp and we have a stacked arms, you can be comfortable none of those have any
Shoulder.
black
Arm.
powder in them. He'll also do
Rear rank.
invert muskets too.
Face.
Another means to make sure nothing's in there. Inverting muskets, if we happen to have grounded arms and set them on the ground and a pebble finds its way into that musket, that's a projectile and you could be shooting at it, people. So we'll do that if we've ever grounded arms before we get back into the action. We're not allowed to put the bayonet on the gun on the park ground. But if I put bayonets, if I go to fix bayonets, every one of those soldiers is now 2.5 feet taller. And he's got this evil thing on the end of his weapon, and he starts to look fearsome. If they're coming to take your position,
Forward. Red. Mark.
you start worrying about that. To take a position, sometimes it's not firing a weapon, it's going there and taking it.
Right. Bayonet. Order. Arm.
You imagine that
In
routine
place.
there with bayonets on,
Drink up if you got it.
you involuntary start stepping back. If there's a cavalry charge and we form a square with bayonets, the horse will not attack the square because it has more sense than the rider. He will not try to breach the bayonet. There's a command, guard against cavalry. The rear rank man puts that bayonet up about the eye level of the horse. Make sure he sees it. Those horses are going
Attention.
away.
Attention. Parade. Rest.
So that concludes what we have prepared in the field. Of course, any one of these soldiers can answer your questions back at the camp. You may prefer a better looking private to an ugly officer, that's fine. They've all got it down, they can answer you. Colonel, you may take the man back. Shoulder, arm. Right. Great. Face. These men do this so that you'll remember what the other men did here, so that your children will be curious, so that they won't forget, so that visitors can learn because they are not that familiar with Americans. Don't let anybody tell you Americans